The moment I thought about community, I couldn't think of anyone else but both of you.
Coffee and Chill Miami just hit really hard, really fast. We host 500 people every other weekend for coffee and ice baths in a very social atmosphere, but without the alcohol, so that you can kind of find those more genuine connections.
I think what's so special about the Entreprenista community is that it's coming from a really genuine place. Stephanie and I built something that we wish we had when we first started our business. We have over 2,000 members now.
If we can give other people a roadmap together, all of these communities are really going to help us combat all the loneliness that's happening in our world currently.
The community is doing so much good, and we want to stay true to that. But at the end of the day, we are also running it like a business so that we can keep it going forever. If we don't do that, then we really can't sustain it.
I do see a lot of community builders in the beginning of their journey kind of saying yes to everything that comes through. Yeah. Oh, no.
I just recently changed my mindset in terms of partnerships. And you're like, oh, you're giving us free product. Amazing. But then it's still a lot of work.
I think when you're attending an event, you don't think about all the details that go behind it. We had to get a warehouse to assemble the gift bags.
There was one event where I lost $10,000 and I questioned everything.
What are some of the most common challenges that community builders face? And how did you navigate them? We're actually doing this. All right. So welcome, ladies. I'm so excited for this topic because it's something that I've been meaning to talk about for the longest time, which is community, right? And I feel like the moment I thought about community, I couldn't think of anyone else but both of you. You have such a different types of community, and I feel like you have so much insight that you can bring, especially for the audience. And you can share so much and kind of help people navigate just starting a community. Can you share a little bit about your background, Courtney, and your past experiences and how that kind of got you into where you are right now?
I started my first business, Socialfly, a few years after college, actually. I graduated during a really tough year. There was a recession, not a lot of jobs, and I got a job working at an insurance company and quickly realized that I'm a really hard worker. And once you enter the workforce, at least for myself, I was going to spend a lot of time working. So I realized I wanted to do something that I was really passionate about. So at around that time, I met my now business partner, and she also wanted to start or get into social media marketing. So we started as a side hustle, quit our jobs on the same day, May 4th of 2012, which is still the day that we celebrate. And we became business owners. We started a marketing agency, but through running the business, we naturally kind of developed this community of women entrepreneurs. Around the time that we first started, we would informally bring women together at meetups in New York City, at bars, or even at our office at the time, and we called it Startups and Stilettos. And then another thing that we did was we always practiced what we preach. So we did a lot of marketing for ourselves. And about 6 years ago in 2018, or maybe that's, I don't know what the math is, 7 years ago, we decided to launch a podcast. And when we were brainstorming names, we decided to create a podcast about entrepreneurship, because that is really what a lot of our conversations were around that time. So we called it Entreprenista, and then one thing led to another. We knew how to market the podcast because of our background in marketing. So in 2020, when women were leaving the workforce at such a rapid pace because of layoffs and the pandemic, we were getting a lot of questions from women trying to pick our brain to figure out how did we leave corporate America to start our own business. And that's when we realized that Entreprenista could be so much more than a podcast. And we decided to formally spin it off and turn it into what it is today, which is a media company and private membership community.
Amazing.
Wow. Yes,
Wow.
I didn't actually know it was first a podcast.
Yes.
That's very interesting. I love that. So, Lucy, I know that you have been in Miami for a little while now. Let's hear a little bit from you as well.
Yeah, so I graduated during 2020 online during the pandemic, and I moved to Miami. I didn't know a single person here, not one connection. And after being isolated during the pandemic, I had this grand vision. I'm going to move to Miami. I'm going to meet all these amazing girlfriends. I'm going to find my aligned community and just tap in super easily. And I was wildly mistaken at how hard that actually is as an adult. I think it was the first move where I wasn't moving into a built-in community like a college with a dorm and a program or an in-person job. Like it was just, on me now to find my own community. So until that point, I don't think I realized how much community was having an impact on mental and physical health. I was super anxious, super lonely. And I was like, this is no way to live. At the time, I was working a 9-to-5 job, remote, didn't really meet my coworkers more than one time. And that job just wasn't fueling my soul. So I quit that job just based on the intuition and calling that I was meant to do something more meaningful that felt more impactful and aligned with who I am. And I set out to build the community that I was really seeking in Miami, which was young women who are into their wellness and their health without drinking, but still in an upscale environment. So that community was called High Vibe Wellness, and I grew that to a full-time income in about a year. And through all the events I was hosting, I spotted this massive opportunity around the ice bath community. Everyone was begging me for more ice bath events. More men wanted to be involved in ice bath events. And I was like, there's something here that Miami's really craving. So that's when I launched Coffee and Chill Miami with my co-founder, Eric, about 9 months ago. And it's just exploded. It's been crazy. So we host 500 people every other weekend for coffee and ice baths in a very social, relaxed environment. But I'm sure we'll get into all the details of that later. But with that, I'm like, okay, I've finally figured out how to build a community in person through events that's actually not only selling out and engaged for them, but financially supportive for myself and my co-founder, because I really believe as community builders, yes, we do this because it's a place of service. Yes, we do this because we love the community. But if we're not financially supported by it, eventually you burn out. And your community burns out with you. So now that I've kind of figured out this system, I've taken all that knowledge and put it into a program called Community Mastery to help other communities grow and build their own business out of their community events.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that you're being able to turn all of that experience now and help other people. There's so much room for community.
Yes.
And we need
Unlimited.
that. It's like you're helping this movement now that's, especially in 2025, that people feel so isolated, right? People for example, for me, I'm being an introvert, I could never think that I could be a community leader. Everyone's they don't believe me, right? They're like, you're an introvert. You're not an introvert. There's no way. And it's so many people that can be in that position. And I always try to put that forward. I used to not talk much about it. Now I talk about it because I feel like it helps other people see, oh, you can do it. Yes.
Totally.
It's okay if you're an introvert. You can still be a community leader. You can still help other people. So I feel like for the people that have that hard time starting something, but also having all the blueprint, I think that's amazing. So what you're doing, I think it's beyond just, I think, a business, but I think you're going to be helping a lot of people.
Oh,
so
thank
I love
you.
that.
Yeah, that's the goal. I mean, I didn't have a roadmap when I started, and there really wasn't a roadmap out there that I could find. So I'm like, if we can give other people a roadmap to building community, not only do they get to work on something they love, but together, all of these communities are really going to help us combat all the loneliness that's happening in our world currently.
Exactly. I love that. So obviously you've had such a journey doing all of this, but you have to start somewhere, right? So for our audience and for the people that are looking to start their own community, what would you say is the very, very first step?
That's a really great question. And it's not something I've actually answered before because my journey and the way that it came to be actually happened so naturally. So my advice to anyone looking to start a community would be, I would imagine if you're thinking about starting a community, you've already developed some sort of niche and some sort of passion for wanting to bring people together. So once you've established what that is, I would say really think about what it actually means, because community could be, an online group using Facebook or Slack or one of the other tools. It could be reoccurring meetups in person, or it could be an email newsletter or even a social media following. So where do you want your community to live? It's kind of the first question, or the second question after you figured out what the values of your community are. And then how are you going to attract more of that type of person? So kind of like, what's the marketing plan? How are you going to bring people to the community is kind of the third step. There's a lot of steps, but I would say, I would say the first step is figure out what are the values of your community and why do you want to bring people together and how are you going to sustain that, to your point earlier, because it's easy to get carried away in the passion of the idea, but once you actually start to implement it, there's costs, there's time, there's logistics. So that passion is going to keep you going, but you do have to figure out logistically how are you going to make it work so that you don't run out of money or spend all of your time and energy on something that isn't kind of giving you something back to live your life.
Yeah, no,
Totally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How about you?
I would say, in addition to all of those very important steps, really get out in your market. If you are looking to build specifically in person or locally, what's happening in your city, going to like as many events as humanly possible so that you can really identify like where's the white space so that you're not just doing something that everyone else is already doing. Where can you differentiate? I have a student in my program now who's told me she went to 100 fitness and wellness events. And it's showing that knowledge as she develops her own community because it's like she has a full understanding of the Miami market. And that's how kind of I started when I moved as well. It was like, how many things can I go to? What do I like? What do I not like? Where do I feel like is missing? How am I finding out about them? And really analyzing what everyone else is doing in your current city so that you can find your spot.
That's a really good point and something I forgot to mention. So Stephanie and I actually joined a lot of entrepreneur groups throughout our entrepreneur journey. So there were at least like 5 of them. So by the time we realized we wanted to start something, we always say we took the best of all of those groups and also built something that we wish we had when we first started our business. That way you can join this one community and get kind of all the things that you need.
Yeah, so even online or in person, like once you identify where you want it to live, like get in that ecosystem and integrate as much as possible.
Yeah, and it's also like about solving a problem, right? You're basically the whole niche thing. It can also start as a problem. Like, what are certain problems that people are having right now? Whether it is meeting in person or they need to get both their wellness and their social life together. Like all of those things, I think identifying and maybe a problem that you're having yourself. I identify a lot with what you both said. Starting the Miami Girls, it was also, I moved here. I didn't know anyone. A lot of my friends from LA were like male friends, basically. When I got here, I was like, I want girlfriends. I really, really need girls in my life. So that's when I started. It was solving that problem. I felt so isolated in this new city. So what is the problem that you can solve, that you're going through, that you can find a solution for? And then identifying that and then finding, like you said, where it's going to live, right? Because that's another big question. So I would like to get a little bit more specific with each of you. I know that each of you have different perspectives. I know that we relate a lot in a lot of things, but I know you have different backgrounds too. So Courtney, you have more of the, marketing background. How would you say that kind of shaped how you went about community building?
My background is, for the last 13 years, has been marketing, but before that, it was finance. I think I have more of a business mind. And then when it comes to how did those experiences shape the community, we really based the values and the mission of the community based on my business partner and I's own personal journeys in entrepreneurship and navigating all of the challenges that we face, because we found that women do face really unique challenges in business. And that was the problem that we sought out to solve through the community. We wanted to bring women together. We also found that entrepreneurs are so open and willing to share advice, which is not something you would typically think if you're first entering the business world. You would think that everyone's keeping things so close to the chest, and that does happen, but I would say more often than not, people are so open and willing to share. So we wanted to give them that space and that place to share. And once we decided what the community is going to be, then that's when we also figured out, okay, how can we logistically make this happen? What is it going to cost? And we kind of put together the whole business plan behind it, which is really exciting, but also comes with its own challenges because the community is doing so much good and we want to stay true to that. But at the end of the day, we are also running it like a business so that we can keep it going forever. Because if we don't do that, then we really can't sustain it.
And then you can continue to help all these people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Lucy, obviously you've had now, 2 major communities. What made you decide to focus more on Coffee and Chill?
When I first started Coffee and Chill Miami, I didn't think, oh, this is going to replace or substitute out High Vibe, but it grew so fast. And all of a sudden, it was just like, I am doing both of these things, but I can't really give either one 100%. And at the end of the day, it's both bringing people together in person in the same city. So it's reusing a lot of the relationships. So every time I was talking to a sponsor or a venue, it was like, which one do I pitch? And then they're confused. And it just felt like I can't do both of these to their full potential. So because of that, I was like, let's just go all in. And you kind of have to go where the energy is flowing. And Coffee and Chill Miami just hit really hard, really fast. And I was like, let's go all in because I think this could be really massive. But it was very challenging. There was a lot of long walks with friends, tarot readings, crying, all the things. But at the end of the day, like I think as an entrepreneur, I've just had to tap into my intuition a lot and listening to that gut feeling. And I just felt like in my heart, I needed to go one or the other. And it made sense from a business perspective to lean into Coffee and Chill Miami.
Oh, that's so cool because I also feel like I can totally see the challenge there, making the decision, and also being kind of between the both. But I love that. I mean, you identified something that a lot of also couples can use, right? Because couples can actually go together. And I remember that was something that I noticed that some of my friends that were going to that event, they were going together as couples.
Yes.
And that's a problem that we've been kind of having a hard time solving as New Miami Girls because most of the events are for women, right? So we don't have that, it's not always open to men. We're trying to open it up a little bit more. Also, men are just so hard to kind of target because they are not like us. I feel like men have a lot of advantages in their careers, but women, we really have community, right? Like we do community so much better than men. So I feel like they struggle with that. If it's not for sports or to like, let's get the buddies, like the guys together or something like that, they're not really willing to put themselves out there as much as we are. And I feel like I love the fact that you have this opportunity for, the girls to kind of like, let's go to this thing, let's go together, let's meet other couples. So I love that. I think it was such a great decision.
Coming too to date, to meet people like outside of drinking or at the bar, the happy hour, the club. It's like, let's go here in a fun social atmosphere, but without the alcohol so that you can kind of find those more genuine connections.
Oh, and that's so important right now with the dating scene here in Miami. I keep hearing crazy stories. So I can imagine an environment like that being a lot easier for people. Have you seen like any stories or anything like anyone that you've seen?
Yeah, we've had people start dating. We've had people move in together, roommates. We've had businesses get started. So it's insane to see it like actually happening.
And I can imagine it's so rewarding too. I love seeing those kind of things. Whenever I see women through the community like becoming friends and then afterwards I see them like going out together, I see them collaborating. I feel like it's just such a like rewarding thing, and I can only imagine like you seeing couples happening. That's crazy. I love that.
There's no better feeling, honestly. You're like, okay, it's doing exactly what I wanted it to.
I would say like also for us like community leaders is like, yes, we're trying to build that financial stability to be able to keep it going. But at the end of the day, those are the real things that I feel like fuel me to keep going. Like I see that kind of thing happening and I'm like, this is why I have to keep going, right? We can really help so many people by just building this. So I love that. Okay, let's talk a little bit about challenges. What are some of the most common challenges that you have seen that community builders face or challenges or mistakes?
Yeah, I think what's so special about the Entreprenista community is that it's coming from a really genuine place. Stephanie and I care so much about every single person in the community, and just we're so passionate about entrepreneurship in general. And like I said before, we built what we wish we had. So there is that level of detail that I think a lot of the members of our community really notice. And it's just coming from an authentic place. I think what the challenges are as you're growing a community, because we have over 2,000 members now. So some of the challenges are logistics, keeping everyone engaged, figuring out, how many people do we need to manage a community of that size? And how do we grow with the community? Because part of it is we now have built these very close connections with everyone. So we have all this information on what they need, where their challenges are, and having this platform now, we're in a unique position to build the solutions to these problems. So doing it fast enough now is also a big challenge for us that we're trying to navigate, and also where to focus, because while we're a niche community of women entrepreneurs, the needs of the community are so wide. So figuring out which problems to focus on is something that we're working on right now, and doing a lot of, I guess, review sessions, brainstorming with our between me and my business partner and our team and consultants that we've hired to figure out, okay, what's next and what's the direction we want to take it in.
I totally relate to that, because sometimes every event that I do, I feel like there's a different woman that comes to me and like, hey, why don't you do this kind of event? Why don't you do this kind of thing? And I'm like, that would be amazing. I would love that. Sounds like such a great idea, but I wish I could do everything. It's just hard.
One of the things that we're doing now, and we've rolled this out in the last year, is having things be member-led. Because if everything is on us, it's so hard to meet the demands of the community. But if we empower our members to take charge and host things in their local cities, it's great for them because they're building their networks there. And it's also really great for us. And they can kind of use the Entreprenista network to get those events well attended and make new connections. So those have been our solutions to that problem, because we want to do everything. All these ideas are amazing, but there's only so much time in the day. So now we're really leaning on our members to help us expand.
That's super smart.
Yeah, we've had, especially with the Facebook group, it's so much easier. People can just create their own events, and then they put it as like a member hosted event. We tried that, but how do you make sure that those are still authentic to the brand? Because they're in certain ways but still representing the brand. How do you make sure that they can properly do that and deliver? Because we know with events, it's not that simple. You need to deliver an experience. You can't let people down. There's so much responsibility to it. How do you make sure that they can do that?
Right now, and it's constantly evolving, but the team has put together guidelines, and if you want to do an event in the community, there's kind of like an application form, and then our support will be promoting the event, and then you'll have to, share with us kind of the details of the event, where it is, what are the logistics, and we have certain guidelines that people have to follow to make sure it's up to Entreprenista standards.
Okay, that definitely
super smart.
Gotta get on that. All right, so how about you, Lucy?
Something I see, as in any business, but as your community grows, or any business that you're working on grows, you end up getting a lot of inundated with all these opportunities. And there's some opportunities that are incredible and really skyrocket your growth and open up a lot of doors, but not all the opportunities are that way, unfortunately. And that's totally okay. But I do see a lot of community builders in the beginning of their journey kind of saying yes to everything that comes through. Yeah.
Oh, no. That's fine. I'm getting better at that now. Yeah.
But I think it's really important to discern like which ones do really align with your values, your mission, and from a business perspective, like, does this really make sense for the growth of our community? And obviously, I love collaboration. Community is all about collaboration, but some collaborations don't actually make sense for your community as a business. So if you look at this more of like a business versus community, you wouldn't see Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts do a collab coffee. That actually makes no sense. You might see Starbucks release a limited edition hot chocolate with Lindt chocolate for the holidays. That makes sense. So I see a lot of communities doing community to community collabs, and sometimes they're not aligned in their incentives, and it actually just ends up diluting their brand on social. And it becomes really confusing in their marketing, who's planning the event, who's taking the lead, and focusing on collaborations outside of just community to community can actually make a lot more sense. So that's something I keep seeing over and over. And there are always a caveat to this, like there are always some community to community collabs that do progress your business, that are separate niches that can help you grow into new markets. But often I just see like very similar communities working with each other. And I'm like, this is just kind of actually counterproductive to your growth.
And it's so hard sometimes because you, especially you, I'm sure now, because you're dealing with so many community builders, they come to you and they're like, let's partner, let's do an event together, let's do something together. And I love that thing. I love collaborating. I absolutely love that. And that was why in the beginning I was just like, yes, let's do it.
Right.
And then it gets to a point in which you just can't keep committing to so many things. And then how do you say no, right? It's so difficult because it's like, for us, I feel like we have so many communities within the community, and I want to be able to help those, especially the ones more in like the fitness world, because we don't focus so much on that. I want to be able to help, but it's like that requires a lot of effort from us whenever we do the collaboration, because we still have to market, still have to do the whole thing, right? So I've been finding it very challenging right now, and I'm trying to learn to navigate. One thing that I've learned that helped was kind of trying to still help them promote certain events. We started doing our free events every Wednesday. We put in, or every week when we can, we put out like free events, free things to do in Miami. So we try to throw in some community events on that, just so we can kind of get the word out and help them somehow, you know?
Right.
But it's very challenging. I feel like I'm like, I want to partner with you, but I can't. But also something, you know, and why I said I felt especially attacked. It was just I just recently changed my mindset in terms of partnerships. It was really hard from the beginning because you're kind of accepting every opportunity to come, and you're like, oh, you're giving us free product, you're doing this, you're doing that. It's like, amazing, like we'll take it, right? But then it's still a lot of work. You still have to, you know, you have the deliverables that you have to do. You have to make sure they still get their promotion. It's a lot of effort from the team. A lot of brands also want to partner and like do an event with you, and they're like, hey, we'll come in. But then it's like, we're going to put so much effort into, you know, promoting your brand. Like how do we keep our team compensated? How do we make sure that, so how have you navigated those kind of conversations with brands, especially to kind of address that?
In terms of working on a sponsorship and making sure it feels equally balanced. Yeah. It's super important. And in the beginning, it's okay to say yes to more of those like gifted opportunities. I did that. It builds up, you know, your portfolio of experience. You don't have to tell in the future that they were gifted partnerships. So it is good in the beginning, but it's really like, how much bandwidth can you put into something for just product at the end of the day? Like, you have to be a little bit strict with the deliverables and the amount you're going to pour into this. So once you're at a certain level with your brand, your online presence, your followers, your content, your history of events, and the number of people you're reaching, you can start charging sponsors for their contribution to your events, because you are providing them so much value, especially at in-person. Like, to be able to be at an event with 500 of your ideal target consumers interacting, sharing your founding story, or having team members there demoing product is so much value. The content, the social exposure, the story reposts, like, you really are in the seat of power in that relationship, and you want to make sure everyone feels supported, but you also, like you said, have to support your team and all of the resources going into fulfilling on those deliverables.
In terms of those partnerships, like, how do you show to them that the value is there, and how do you go about negotiating for it to be a paid sponsorship versus, you know, do you have like conversions? Like, because I know a lot of them ask for those numbers. It's like, how do you gather all that information even?
Totally. So first, I would say tracking data across all of your experiences and your online community. So having numbers about social impressions, reach, follower count, attendees at all of your events. How many events have you hosted? How many other partners have you had? All of that is super important. And the more numbers and visuals you can show them, the better. I always sell on a call with the sponsor because I feel like they can really connect with you. At the end of the day, you're working with a person, not really a brand. Like, you want to make sure that this is going to be fun. Everyone's on the same page. So I always do it over a phone call, like a video call. And then in terms of showing the value, it's really, at the end of the day, events are an exposure play. And if they're looking for conversions, I like to level set expectations and be super honest. Someone is not coming to your event and seeing your product once and then rushing to the grocery store to buy it or clicking a link online to purchase immediately. It's one touch point of many, but it's a very high value touch point. They get to interact with the product in person. They actually get to try it and take it home. They get to talk to your team. So you're warming up that relationship for a conversion down the line. And then you're getting the content, you're getting the social deliverables, and we'll outline exactly how many deliverables, how many videos and photos you can expect, and how many people you'll reach in person, and making sure that we're really on the same page. This is not going to drive immediate sales for your brand, but it is also super important in their customer journey.
That's something I really had to learn in the beginning, because those brands would expect a lot from us, and they are I don't know, it depends also the types of brands that you're working with. Some of them have already experienced. They already have experience. They've done this for a while. They know like what kind of, results they can get out of it. Mm-hmm. But a lot of brands expect them to be already like, we're going to get sales out of it, right?
Right.
When in reality, what you're doing is you're bringing prospects. And those prospects, those leads are already very expensive if they were to go normally with like paid ads or anything like that. Like they pay a lot for that. So we're doing that. We're bringing people, we're bringing the leads, but it's really important. And I would say, especially for, people starting their own communities, is like, with that, build up that boundary, like start with that boundary with the brand, so they understand that all you're here to do is bring the prospects. And then whether they're going to buy or not, that's dependent on them, on their brand, whether the product is good, whether their team can sell if they're at the event. It's dependent on a lot of things. You're not going to be able to do all of that yourself, unless, of course, you're doing like an ad and you're the one responsible for selling something, right? So I think that was something very, very interesting that I had to kind of eventually learn to talk with the brands, right?
Yeah, and it's important not to just sell them on like, yeah, you're going to get conversions, because you want to work with them long term. And if you are selling them on something you kind of know isn't a realistic expectation, it doesn't really work out in the long term. But I will work with them to optimize their activation. So if they're like, oh, we really want to collect emails, I'm like, great, let's do samples for everyone, then have a QR code where you can have people opt in for an email, like give them your email and then enter a bigger giveaway. So like helping them in that full process of like, what can your activation actually look like? But I'd love to hear from you, because you have a marketing background. So what other things can you add to shine some light on this?
So when we decided to build out Entreprenista and have a membership model and a media model, we had the background of working with over 300 brands in the last 13 years. So we know how to talk to brands, we know what brands want, and we know how to kind of position the benefits of the community based on the goals and challenges they're looking to solve. And you said it perfectly, actually. Like, it is going to be very hard for anyone to bring on paid partnerships if you're not kind of connecting the dots and what the brand's challenges are. So it comes back to figuring out what their problems are. Why are they coming to you in the first place? What is aligned about your brand and what they're looking to do? And a lot of times it does require building out these kind of like customized programs to give them what they need. And the challenges with that too is that's hard to scale when everything is so custom. So you kind of have to find, once you have worked with a lot of brands and have been doing it for a little while, you can kind of see, okay, like there is a common request for this package. There's a common request for this. And then over time, you can start to scale that based on the commonalities of what all these brands want. But in the beginning, you have to do a lot of customization.
It takes a lot of time to be able to do it.
Yes. And if you're at the place, like in the beginning, the barters make sense.
Yes.
And sometimes they still make sense if, you're getting space, because space can be really expensive.
Yes.
So certain things do make sense to barter. But if you're in a position where bartering doesn't make sense, if the value, and look, everyone loves, like we have amazing gift bags at our events. It's a highlight when I go to our events. I'm like, oh, I'm leaving with this amazing gift bag. But we just did an event last year with over 200 women, and we had maybe 50 brands contribute to the gift bag. We had to get a warehouse to assemble the gift bag. So this free product, because we do you have to pay to come to the events, has now a lot of costs associated with it, because we have to be the ones to assemble them, and we have to put together these assembly teams to put them together. So I think when you're attending an event, you don't think about all the details that go behind it. And it's easy to kind of criticize the price points of something. But there's a lot of work that goes into it, totally. Especially if you want to put high quality events together. So those are some of the challenges and advice I'd have for people.
As you know, as we were talking right before we started recording, like we're learning from each other.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing to be able to have this conversation, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this as more of like a round table feel, so we can kind of like, you know, have those conversations, learn from each other, help the audience like kind of take what works for them, right? Because what maybe works for your brand might not work for everyone. Trying to build a community and vice versa, right? So I think this is very, very helpful. I kind of transitioned from, I remember in the beginning we had to reach out to all those brands, and we were like, I had teams and templates and decks and all those things. And then now I get to the point in which they reach out to us, and often, and it's like we're kind of like, oh, okay, now we have way too many inquiries and we don't know what to do with those. But for people that are looking to like reach out to specific brands, like what would you say how they should go about it? You know, when you're starting out and you're like, okay, how do I even get them to like listen to me, right?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this. So, you know, you can always do kind of cold outreach through email or DMs on maybe Instagram or LinkedIn to brands that kind of fit the criteria of perfect partnerships for you. And I do recommend that you do that. The response rate isn't always so high. I do see a lot of benefit to doing that. Second is kind of working your network and going to other people's events. So if you see a sponsor that you want is sponsoring another event, it's very likely that that sponsor is going to be at that event. So you should go to that event so you can build a relationship with that person and let them know about what your offer is. So those would be the two things, is really, you know, getting in front of these sponsors by cold outreaching to them or being where they are.
Yeah, spot on. Exactly. Yeah.
I would say exactly the same. Like, I remember we were trying different things and we were like, but you have to go and you have to DM them and then you have to send an email to them. But not only DM, but you have to go and you have to like their stories so they can see. It was just like a whole like, okay, how do we get them to listen? But that's really good advice, at least for people to get started, right?
Yeah, and a lot of outreach. Like, I think some of my students will be like, okay, I reached out like 10 brands. I'm like, we're talking like 1,000 brands. Like, let's go. Like,
it's a numbers
and don't
game.
Get discouraged when, like, you know, they ghost or they say one or two things and then they don't respond. So like, you just have to keep going. It's consistency. And then once you have a portfolio of proof of concept and all the other partners you've done, then they start flooding in.
Yeah. And something I would add to that as well, which is something that I've been realizing like past year, is there are a lot of PR companies in Miami, and a lot of them represent a lot of brands.
Yes.
So when you get a chance to kind of get in with them and you build a relationship with them, they can pretty much, whenever you have an event, you can just send them emails and be like, okay, this is exactly what I have. Which one of your brands can work with this? Like, and they can do that for you. And it's so much easier when they get involved because they're the middle person there. So you don't have to deal directly with the brand. So there are like things sometimes that can happen, you know, and they are the ones that will navigate that with the brands. So that can be very, very helpful. So I would add to that.
It can be helpful, but it's also, I always find it's always easier if you can go direct to the brand versus like a PR agency or a middle agency. Of course, sometimes you have to navigate the relationship that way. But I find a lot of times with PR agencies, they're not looking to pay for sponsorships because they're paid to get those placements without an extra payment. So it can be a little bit challenging, but it does work. And sometimes you have to go that route.
Yeah,
I have found it's better for gifted, but also for venues. If they're like hospitality PR agencies, then it really works for the venues as well.
Yeah, so I would agree with that. I've been able to navigate some of those differently and like get something out of it in a way that they were actually working both for us and for the brand because they understood the value, but it's so difficult. Yeah, so I think that's great advice. So in terms of your own communities, let's just talk a little bit about your own communities. Were there any challenges that you faced, and how did you navigate them?
Yeah, so I think, with High Vibe, I just had no idea in the beginning, like, how do I get a venue for free? How do people even host events and make any money? So it was a lot of trial and error. And I think as you learn by doing, you end up being able to spot red flags sooner in a relationship with the venue or a sponsor. But there was one event where I lost $10,000 and I questioned everything. I was like, why am I doing this anymore? And I recovered and it was fine. And I reconnected to my why and my mission, and I just kept going. But it was like just a lot of mistakes that I would never make now with a venue that it was an agreement, but it was in an email and it wasn't really signed. And I only had one point of contact instead of having multiple point of contact. And like all of these little things along the way that make a big difference in the end, because, they ended up just pulling out last minute, and I had to end up getting another venue and going the private event space route and paying a lot of money, because I was like, the community is number one. I'm not canceling this event, because I had already put it out there. I already had sponsors flying in for it. I had so many things lined up. So I was like, I'm just going to eat this and do it anyway, because the community deserves that. But now I would never make mistakes like that. It's just a lot of learning that goes into it. And honestly, the best way to learn is by taking action.
You have to be prepared for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I always say that too. Unfortunately, mistakes are going to happen, but the goal is to not repeat these mistakes. So sometimes we just have to learn that way. There's definitely a lot of challenges with running a growing community. Like I was saying earlier, there's a lot of feedback on, I want this next, or I want to do this event, or you guys should do this. So I would say that's just the ongoing challenge of finding the right balance between the resources we have and the demands of the community, because we want to do it all, but it requires constant reprioritization. Or not even reprioritization, like sticking to what the priorities were that you set out at the beginning of the year or every quarter, and just being as strict about it as possible, which is really, really hard. So hard to say no.
It's very, very hard, especially if you have people pleasing tendencies. I feel like I've grown so much, and it shows now in the way that I approach the community, because up until I would say a year ago, I was just, my people pleasing tendencies were just taking the lead. And that's where I found it hard to sometimes say no, and to really try to, make sure that it was worth our time and things like that. And as I started kind of working on myself, healing those parts of me, and then I started to approach the business that way, I really saw the difference, because then I could see, oh, wait, if I'm trying to kill myself to, work with you and beat all those expectations, I'm not going to be able to deliver. I'm not going to be able to deliver what you're actually expecting of me. So I think that's very helpful to have that inner work too, that you have to do with as a community leader. You have to have a lot of things resolved.
A lot of energy.
To be able to,
and I would say for anyone that feels that way, and we have definitely felt that way and still feel that way, if you craft a sentence or something, like a polite way to say no, and there's a lot of really respectful, nice ways to do it. You have this sentence, this paragraph, and you can just send it whenever it's appropriate. So that way you don't have to spend so much time going back and forth. Should I do this? Should I not? I don't want to upset their feelings. How do I say no? There's a lot of nice ways to say no. And sometimes a no isn't just it's a not yet. Now it's the priorities. This isn't a priority for me for right now. Let's revisit this a year from now, or we'll come back to you when this makes sense, because our agenda is set for the next 6 months. I know it can be mad at that.
Yeah. I also think a lot of people ask for things, and they, if they're not a community builder, they might not understand really the implications or how much work goes in behind the scenes. We'll often get our tickets sell out, within an hour at most.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. So we'll sell 500 tickets instantly, and then people are constantly DMing us, why can't we have more people at these events? And I'm like, well, when we do the big events, then we get all the DMs that are like, it's too big. It's not a sense of community. And I'm like, you can't always win. So sometimes people just say things and ask for things and then don't really think about how that would actually impact the experience. And having so many people at an event is a completely different level of production, of organization, of costs, of team resources. So I feel like sometimes they, I love the feedback, but I'm like, it's not going to be that simple, or you might not even enjoy what you're asking for when you get there. And there's thousands of people. We do thousands of people sometimes as a fun, special thing, but it's very different feel than 500.
That's a really good point too, because once something gets to a certain size, something that you think is simple feedback actually really isn't that simple.
Exactly.
So that is good just for anyone to know. And I'm guilty of it too. I love to go to nice places, to restaurants, to this, and I'll think, oh, it would be better if this happened. But you don't always think about the logistics behind actually making that thing happen. And it involves a lot of times, a lot of people, a lot of costs. So that's just something that everyone should know. If you're building a community or part of a community, we're all doing the best that we can.
Yes.
And we're doing it in the way that makes it sustainable for us so we can deliver this value to you in the long term.
All right, before we leave the event topic, because I know that you have a very successful event series, could you share with us a little bit about how it is, like how you're managing to keep your events profitable while still keeping it accessible for basically your members, your community members?
So there's a couple things. First, it's cutting costs, getting the venue on a partnership for free or very minimal cost. Bringing in sponsorship revenue when you're reaching enough people. I think we touched on that kind of already. And then really cutting all the costs down in terms of all of your partnerships with different local vendors you're bringing in, kind of in the sponsorship realm as well. But then also with your content team, if you're committing with them to the year of events, you're able to negotiate a better price as well. So with being able to negotiate on those longer terms, it's about planning really far out and having kind of a systemized approach to your events. So we're hosting every other weekend. Yes, there's nuances, there's new venues and brands and themes, but it is also a system so that we're able to predict what our costs are going to be and what's going to come up on our budgets every event. So that's part of it. And then you really need to get your tickets to sell consistently. So with that, it's providing an excellent experience at the event, but I like to try to provide 5 times the ticket value so that when guests come, they're absolutely blown away. And if you were to ever have an event that's priced differently, it's a no-brainer purchase for them because they know it's going to be worth the ticket price. So when you come to our events, you'll notice none of our vendors sell to you. It's really about keeping the community first because that's what's going to keep it sustainable. That's what's going to keep people coming back to you. Like, the gifts are amazing. We all love a goodie bag, but that's not why somebody's coming to your events for years. That might be why they come once. So making sure that your vendors are there providing actual value to your attendees and not just upselling you over and over. I think we've all been to events where you buy a ticket and then you get there and you realize all the things you were sold on in their marketing are actually just upsells at the event. And there is nothing worse. I could go on a rant about that forever, but especially with food and beverage, you want that to feel like an all-inclusive experience. So it's about making sure that your guests are wowed and then they want to come back time and time again. So your tickets are selling, your costs are low, and you're on a system that's scalable so you can really predict what your profits are going to be.
That makes a lot of sense. In terms of social media, very quickly, so we can cover that, I would love to know a little bit, especially for you. You've been getting a lot of people to come. What is the role of social media in all of that?
Everything. Everything. We do no paid advertising, no paid marketing. It's all through organic social, specifically Instagram and Reels. And it's just being consistent. It's posting 6 days a week and having a really good system. So I manage the content for Coffee and Chill Miami. I spend less than 2 hours a week on that account and we post 6 days a week. It's about having amazing team members, having a really clear strategy and a plan in place, and working with freelancers so that you're not paying someone $5,000 a month to manage your socials. We can't afford to do that as a community yet. And you want to always be cutting your costs. So working with great talent that you can pay per video, per edit, per scheduled post, things like that, versus paying someone all the way up front. And then just having all of it planned out far in advance and having a really good system for gathering content at the events. So I'm not the one filming at the events. I have people to do that so I can really focus on hosting the community, but knowing that all of the content is getting created and that we're doing the trends and things like that. And just being consistent and being able to reach new eyes through social. It's absolutely everything because as community builders and cutting our costs, we don't want to be spending money on paid ads.
Yeah, for everything. And I feel like community has that element of it's very organic. Mm-hmm. You don't usually need ads because if they feel involved, if they feel included, they usually don't need to, worry about that.
Totally.
So that's really great insight. But now, Courtney, your community I've heard great things about the networking aspects of your community. Could you share a little bit how you go about making sure that your members are facilitating for your members to have those networking opportunities?
I would say that's the most fulfilling thing about having the community is the amount of collaborating that's happening every single day. Our members are finding investors through the community, learning from each other, partnering with each other, hiring each other.
Wow.
And we facilitate that through the virtual events that we have, the in-person networking that we do. And because it's a business community, we actually encourage and want people to promote themselves, which is counterintuitive to other communities where it's not about selling. And that doesn't mean that we want everyone hard selling all the time, but we want to encourage and foster this mindset of confidence. Don't be shy. You are in this community because you want to grow your business. And the only way to do that is if you put yourself out there and be vulnerable and share what your business challenges are, or just say, here's who I am and this is what I'm selling. We want to encourage those behaviors because you'll find and attract people that can help you solve your problem or people that want to buy your product. And it's just been amazing to see what's been happening within the ecosystem.
Wow, amazing. So rewarding. I love that. All right, ladies. So I want to talk a little bit about burnout. We've all felt it. I mean, every business owner has to go through that. But when you're creating a community, when you're building a community, there are so many ups and downs you have to deal with. There's such a patience you have to have because it's not going to be right away, right? The results, and you have to keep showing up. And sometimes it's just really, really hard. How do you keep up? How do you manage, the potential burnout that comes with that?
Yeah, so I think a couple things here. Number one, like in terms of the events on event day, I have to have a grounded morning routine, even if it's just like 20 minutes for myself and whatever that means to you. But for me, it's like doing a breath work, setting my intentions, like getting in the right mental space to be able to host and absorb a lot of energy constantly getting thrown at you. And if I don't do that first, I end up leaving feeling very burnt out. My nervous system is overwhelmed. So making sure that you give yourself that time before the event to really mentally prepare and energetically prepare. And then also after the event, having time alone to calm down, to integrate everything you just experienced so that you're really able to show up and be fully present when you're at the experience itself. So that's number one. And then just overall, I feel like a lot of it for me comes from calendar planning and being super organized. So not just looking at today or tomorrow, but what's happening this entire year. And all of the trips are planned way in advance to be positioned around the events so I can be in person. So I know that I can have time with my boyfriend, with my family, time for myself, for my friends. And like all of that is scheduled in so that when I'm working, I know that I can be super present and focused. And then that something's coming that's more of my social life. But without planning that in advance, it won't happen. I'll just get too busy and then poof, the year's gone and I'm burnt out. So it really comes down to planning and then on a weekly basis, time blocking as well and scheduling. On Sundays, I schedule my entire week. Every moment of the day is scheduled Monday through Friday. And I put in time to see my friends, to go on a walk, to go to yoga. Like those things are so important. But if they're not planned, they won't happen.
Makes a lot of sense. How about you?
I'm going to take some of that advice. I think it's hard because as an entrepreneur, or at least for myself, I feel comfortable being really busy and overbooked. And when I'm not, it's very uncomfortable for me. It's a challenge because I don't want to be burnt out. I want to do all of the things that don't make me burnt out. But when I have a day where there's nothing on my schedule, it actually freaks me out. So I'm learning. I think somewhat new thing that I incorporated is meditating every morning for about 10 minutes. That helps me get centered, doing better at saying no to things that really aren't aligned with my mission or my priorities. I'm not great at it, but it is really important. And then, like you said, like putting time in the calendar to make sure that certain things happen. But I also and I'm not like too spontaneous, but I don't love, at least on my personal life side, my business side is another story that has to be planned. If it's not in the calendar, it's not going to happen. I'll forget about it. But on my personal side, I don't like to be overscheduled. I like to not make plans and make plans the day of. And for me, that helps me stay somewhat balanced because I can get really overwhelmed having too many personal plans.
No, I totally hear that. I'm a little bit of in between both of you. Like, I'm working on myself right now, but it's so hard. My friends are like, Ellen, we never see you. And I'm like, I only have so much energy for events. Like, I am just so hard. But this is all really helpful. Well, thank you so much. There's so much value here that you shared. I feel like a lot of people are going to be able to take this and implement that to their brands, to their own community building. I would also love to know a little bit about what you're doing right now. Like, what are you working on right now?
Absolutely. So if you are thinking about starting a community or you have a community and you're looking to make it into more full-time income, my coaching program is called Community Mastery. It's a 90-day A to Z, all the details of community building, literally everything I know. So if you're interested in that, you can find it at communitybuildingcollective.com. You can find me on social at Lucy Nellis, on TikTok and Instagram, and everything you could possibly need is in my bio. So you can find me there, but I am primarily focused right now on really supporting my students and helping them host their sold out profitable events and really just growing the communities across the country. We have students in tons of different cities, states, and now even in other countries. So it's all over. Yeah.
Wow. That's so interesting. I didn't know it was just already so spread out. That's amazing.
It's been super exciting.
That's so
and
cool.
then if you're in Miami, come to Coffee and Chill Miami every other Sunday. We host the coffee and ice bath events. We'll also be opening in some new cities this year. So stay tuned for that.
Exciting.
Yes.
All right. So how about you, Courtney?
Yeah. So if you are looking for an entrepreneur community, you can join Entreprenista League and you can go to entreprenista.com. And if you apply, you can get $500 off your membership if you use community at checkout. So I'd love to meet new entrepreneurs. And this is for anyone that is currently an entrepreneur. And it's even a great community if you're thinking about entrepreneurship and don't even know where to get started. You could also sign up for our free newsletter. So all of that is on entreprenista.com. And then you can also find us on all the social media networks. I don't think there's one that we're not on, at Entreprenista. And then me personally, I would say LinkedIn or Instagram is probably the best place to connect with me.
I feel like you're both doing a lot and you're really, I was going to say thriving at it. No, pun intended, no. But thank you so much for all the value that you're sharing. I think you're going to be helping a lot of people. So thank you for coming.
Thank
you.